Okay, so we're diving into the electric state today. It's been kind of hard to miss the buzz around it.
Yeah, you're not wrong. It's a pretty big deal for Netflix.
One of the most expensive movies ever.
Mm-hmm.
I think I read somewhere.
Something like that, yeah. And it's just such a striking visual style, This sort of like retro-futuristic 1990s America thing. Familiar, but also really alien at the same time because of this whole war with robots that they've got going on.
Yeah, totally. Like you've got your classic cars and stuff, but then there are these crazy drones and robots everywhere. And then you've got Millie Bobby Brown and Chris Pratt starring in it.
Oh, and directed by the Russo brothers, like the guys who did the Avengers movies.
Right. It's like all these huge names in this massive budget.
Yeah.
You kind of have to wonder what they're going for with all of it. What's the story underneath all this spectacle?
That's what I find interesting, right? Like from the get-go, everyone talking about the scale of it all, the budget, the special effects. But does that actually translate to a good story? Is it maybe even a distraction from a story that might not be that deep? Who knows?
Yeah, good point. And it's all based on this graphic novel by Simon Stollenhag that came out a few years back, 2018, I think?
Yeah, 2018.
And the trailers definitely lean hard into that visual style. Like, it's almost like they're trying to make a moving painting or something.
Absolutely.
But yeah, the question is, does that visual punch actually connect with a story that's going to stick with you?
Exactly.
So the movie starts off in 1990, and we meet Michelle, played by Millie Bobby Brown. Mm-hmm. And she has this brother, Christopher, who is like super smart, like solving crazy math problems even as a kid, like the kind of prodigy who you just know is going to do something amazing. It feels almost deliberate, right? Sure. This glimpse into this normal-ish life before everything changes.
Yeah, I think so. Like they're setting up this baseline of a world we can recognize. Even with hints of this advanced tech, it's still relatable. So when things do shift, it's that much more noticeable. A classic kind of before and after thing.
And then boom, we jump ahead 4 years to 1994.
Yeah.
And whoa, things are different. Like Neurocasters are everywhere.
Neurocasters, right.
Which basically let you link your mind to these robot bodies.
It's
a pretty freaky concept if you think about it too much.
Yeah.
Like, your mind can be somewhere else entirely while your body is just chilling here.
Yeah, it's kind of creepy.
It makes you think about how we're all so glued to our phones and computers now. Like even today, we're kind of already experiencing that disconnection a little bit.
That's a really interesting parallel. I mean, the tech in the electric state is obviously way more advanced, but the underlying anxiety about being mentally checked out, it feels super relevant to how we live now. Like maybe the film is using this retro future setting to explore these like timeless anxieties about technology and what we create.
Right. It's like they're holding up a mirror in a way.
Yeah, kind of.
And meanwhile, Michelle's life has gotten pretty rough. She's in foster care, and she hates technology, especially Neurocasters. We find out that her family supposedly died in a car crash, hit a deer, which is such a normal, everyday kind of tragedy. And then one night, this toy robot shows up. Its name is Cosmo, and it acts exactly like her brother used to, like based on his favorite cartoon. It's such a weird mix of something comforting and familiar, and also super unsettling at the same time.
Yeah. Cosmo's arrival is like a huge turning point. This toy, this little robot becomes the thing that pushes Michelle forward on her journey. It's like a physical connection to the brother she thought she lost. It's interesting how this little, almost childlike figure ends up driving so much of the story.
Totally. And things get really intense really fast. Cosmo ends up defending Michelle from her foster dad, who turns out to be dealing in illegal stuff, like black market goods from this place called the Exclusion Zone, which is like this area that's only for robots that was set up after the war. And now their whole goal becomes reaching this zone because they think somehow Christopher's mind might be there. It's a huge leap of faith, and it's all because of this weird little robot who loves cartoons. And speaking of, when they talk about these Neurocasters, are we talking about like a full transfer of consciousness or more like just controlling these drone bodies remotely?
It seems more like a direct neural link. Like projecting your consciousness or your control into these robot bodies. They hint that it's deeper than just remote control. Like there's a more intense connection between the mind and the machine.
Wow, okay. So it's not just like piloting a drone, it's like actually being in the robot.
More like that, yeah. And this whole concept of the exclusion zone is fascinating too, right? It shows how divided things still are after the war. Like there's this physical separation between humans and robots. It makes you question if they can ever really reconcile when there are these hard boundaries still in place.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's like even after the fighting stops, the scars are still there.
Right.
So they're heading into this robot territory, and they end up crossing paths with Keats, who is played by Chris Pratt.
Of course.
He's like this smuggler operating in New Mexico.
Yeah.
And he's got his own robot sidekick named Herman.
Hmm.
And the whole 90s vibe is really strong in this movie. Like specific pop culture references the tech. It's all very deliberately creating this particular atmosphere.
Yeah.
I've even seen some people saying that the nostalgia is almost like another character in the story.
That's a good observation. Nostalgia can be a really powerful tool for setting a mood and connecting with the audience, but it can also be risky. Like if it becomes too much, it can overshadow the story itself, like it's all style and no substance.
Right. It's a balancing act for sure. So we've got Michelle and Cosmo heading into this dangerous robot-controlled zone, being led by this cynical smuggler and his sarcastic robot buddy, all while trying to survive in this post-war world. You'd think that's the main conflict, right? But then the story takes this really unexpected turn. They discover that Christopher isn't actually dead.
Yeah, it's a big twist. Like, the brother she thought she lost ends up being the key to this much bigger conflict. The story shifts from this search for a lost loved one to a rescue mission with these huge implications for everyone. It builds on that idea of a divided world and Michelle's initial goal of finding Christopher, but then takes it in a direction you don't really see coming.
It turns out Christopher is alive,
Yeah.
but he's basically being used by this corporation called Center.
Led by Ethan Skate, played by Stanley Tucci.
Stanley Tucci. And here's where it gets really messed up. Christopher's so smart that he's actually like the core of their whole Neurocaster system. He's been turned into this living component that powers this tech that everyone's using.
Yeah, it's like he's the brain of the whole operation.
It's scary. And it makes you think about the ethics of all this tech. Like, how far is too far? What happens when people become just tools for progress? It connects with all these debates we're having now about AI and how much control we're giving to machines. Like, are we losing sight of what it means to be human?
Absolutely. It's like this constant tension between what we can achieve with technology and what we might be sacrificing in the process, like individual freedom, human connection.
And then there's this incredibly sad moment where Michelle, who's been so against Neurocasters, she has to use one to talk to Christopher.
Yeah.
And he asks her to disconnect him. Like, he's willing to sacrifice himself to stop Center and what they're doing to the world. It's such a powerful scene. It really makes you think about the film's message, right? Like, is individual life worth sacrificing for the sake of technology?
Like, it definitely underlines that concern about how technology can dehumanize us, how it can prioritize efficiency and control over individual well-being. And Christopher's sacrifice highlights the idea that personal freedom is something worth fighting for, even if it means giving up everything.
And the consequences of his death are huge. Like, all of Center's drones, the whole Neurocaster network, it all just shuts down. The world is suddenly a lot less digitally connected. And Michelle broadcasts this message globally. But what I thought was interesting is that it's not this simple technology is evil message.
Right.
She acknowledges that technology can be good, but warns against becoming too dependent on it, like letting it cut us off from real human connections. It's a call for balance, which I thought was really refreshing.
Yeah, it avoids that cliche technology bad narrative that you see so often.
Totally.
By acknowledging both the good and the bad, the film offers a more nuanced perspective on our relationship with technology.
Right. It's not black and white. It's complicated.
Exactly.
And there's even this hint of hope at the end. Colonel Bradbury, played by Giancarlo Esposito, seems to change his mind about things after seeing what Center is willing to do. He even has this moment of reconciliation with Mr. Peanut, the leader of the robot resistance, who is voiced by Woody Harrelson.
No way Woody Harrelson as a robot leader.
Right. It suggests that maybe humans and robots can coexist peacefully in the future, which, after all that conflict, is kind of a big deal. But it does make you wonder, like, is that realistic? Can you really overcome that much animosity and distrust so easily? What do you think?
It might seem a little too quick, but I think it's more about symbolism. Like, it represents the possibility of empathy bridging even the biggest divides. It suggests that recognizing our shared humanity, or even sentience in the case of robots, can be the first step towards peace.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like a glimmer of hope in a pretty dark world. And the ending also leaves us with a couple of loose ends. Cosmo, who we thought was deactivated, suddenly comes back to life in this landfill. It makes you wonder if maybe part of Christopher's consciousness is still around somehow. And Herman Keith's robot companion, after we think he's been destroyed, reveals this tiny version of himself that's still working. It really emphasizes the unexpected bonds that formed between humans and robots during the story. Like, even after all the destruction, there's still this potential for connection and maybe even a kind of rebirth. What do you make of those little hints at the end, like the possibility that consciousness lingers on or that these connections we make can surprise us?
I think those moments add a lot of emotional depth to the story. Like they suggest that the impact of these relationships and maybe even consciousness itself can exist in ways we don't fully understand. It leaves you thinking about the nature of connection and memory even after physical death.
Right. It's like these little echoes that keep resonating. And it's worth mentioning that the filmmakers were really intentional about creating a believable world for all of this to happen in. Like, they wanted the robots to feel like real characters, not just CGI.
Yeah.
They brought in Dennis Gassner, who's this amazing production designer, and they used motion capture actors to bring the robots to life. So there's this sense of real presence to them.
I think that attention to detail really pays off. The practical effects and the motion capture make the interactions between humans and robots feel more grounded. It adds to the emotional impact of the story.
Totally. So at the end of the day, what's the Electric State really about? Beyond all the action and the amazing visuals, it seems to be exploring this idea of how technology can both connect and disconnect us from real human experience. And it makes you think about our own lives, right? Like, how much time do we spend staring at screens? What are we missing out on in the real world because we're so plugged in? And that final question the film asks, can humans and robots ever truly coexist peacefully after all this conflict? It's definitely something to think about.
No doubt. And that's what makes it such a compelling film. It raises all these questions that we're grappling with in our own lives right now about technology, about connection, about what it means to be human in this increasingly digital world.
Exactly. It's a film that stays with you.
For sure.
And that's what makes it worth talking about.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, that's our deep dive on the Electric State. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. This was fun.
That was a good one.